Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this opportunity to say good afternoon to you. Welcome to the Speak Out program, which is a live session for the Youth Agenda. It's an opportunity for you young people, for the public to engage with young leaders, young upcoming leaders, political leaders also, who have been doing something for you. Those that are leading you, those that are representing you in political spaces and also in private sector. So today we have one of our guests that we've been popularizing all through the week. He's a renowned youth leader, and we want to get the opportunity to engage him on matters constitution, matters youth leadership, matters youth representation. We together today, we have the CEO for Kenya Young Parliamentarian Association, Bwana Antony Buluma Samba. Very soon utaanza kumuita Honorable Buluma Samba. I want to take this opportunity to welcome him. Before I do that, I want to say my name. I'm Kelvin Keya. I'm the CEO for Youth Agenda. Youth Agenda is a youth-serving organization registered 24 years back. And today, in the spirit of engaging young people and representing young people, we continue to develop programs that support and uplift the spirits, uplift the representation of young people. We have three main programs. We have the Youth in Leadership and Youth in Leadership and Governance, which focuses on encouraging young people to join politics, encouraging young people to get into leadership spaces in private sector, in governance. For example, in devolution, we are looking forward to have many young people like you as governors, as CCs, as MCAs, you know. Then we have youth economic empowerment, which focuses on now making money or putting money into the pockets of young people. So as we speak, we have the Job New Job program, which uplifts and showcases what young people are doing in the country and across the country. We also have the Top 35 Under 35 program, which is also an amplifier for what young people are doing. And recently we launched the first cohort for 2020. We have young people doing amazing job in health, in agriculture, in sports, in ICT, in environment, and so forth. Then we have the last program, which is gender advocacy and development. Again, in everything that we do, we are in the spirit of truth as gender rule. Even in our office, actually it is 50-50. You get time to look at it.
Well done.
So we are encouraging the representation of and the engagement of the female gender into all development programs. So today, I wish to welcome you, Antony Buluma Samba. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Kelvin, my good friend and brother. I think we have so many things in common, but primarily we have a shared vision to better the lives of young people. I'm happy and delighted to be part of Speak Out. Youth Agenda is not only a sister organization to KYPA, but we consider Youth Agenda a strategic partner in all the things that we do. As you've mentioned, my name is Antony Samba Buluma. I serve as the CEO of the Kenya Young Parliamentarians Association, forum for members of parliament below 35 years. Some are elected, others nominated, and recently we also managed to launch the young members of county assemblies.
Yes.
So we are a platform for members of parliament from the counties all the way to the national. We have a membership of 51 members of parliament serving in both the Senate and National Assembly. And at the county assembly level, this country is privileged to have 1,027 members of county assembly who are below 35. The association was started way back in 2004. I think many young people don't know that. But it became more active from 2013, 2014. And it's also focused on 4 thematic areas of interest, which are employment creation, education, and we are talking about access to quality education and affordable education. We have a program on healthcare. We are in support of the universal healthcare coverage, and we are also in support of youth-friendly health facilities. And then we have employment creation, which we are committed in ensuring that we try and narrow, the widened gap of unemployment in our country. And then we, in our recent strategic plan, we introduce another pillar on arts and culture, because we realize that it's a very integral sector that many people have ignored. So the nature of our operations is entirely guided by the functions of Parliament, which is to oversight, legislate, and represent the people of Kenya. So pretty much that is our story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to remind you that this is a hot seat, so if we ask you hot questions, please don't run away. There should be water to ensure that you are.
I've been trying to drink it to cool down. I'm hoping that it's moderated the temperature level.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first things first, is this KYPA just a Nairobi based program? How can young people be sure and feel it on the ground? Because there are questions that were coming since yesterday. KYPA is just in Nairobi. Could you convince young people that KYPA goes beyond Nairobi?
Yes, KYPA is actually Nairobi headquartered, but it's not Nairobi based in terms of our operations, because our thinking is far beyond the confines of Nairobi. Our membership, like I mentioned, is for members of Parliament who are from very divergent backgrounds in this country. We have membership from as far as Wajir, we have membership from as far as Molo, we have membership from the coastal region, we have membership from the western, northeastern, literally every part of Kenya. We have a member of Parliament who's below 35. And these are the people who come together to create the Kenya Young Parliamentarians Association. So you can imagine the type of meetings that we have. It's a meeting for Kenya. Any opportunity for convening, it's Kenya convening, because it's a conversation amongst people from very divergent interests, divergent backgrounds, some from hardship areas, others from Nairobi, which is perceived as a privileged area. And that is why the nature of our operations allows us to, in terms of the program issues that we implement programs that go beyond benefiting people in Nairobi. And like I said, sometimes maybe what frustrates the young people is that they want to feel the tangible benefits of KYPA, but they forget that Parliament is a representational organ of government. It doesn't have those extras like the executive, where I can promise them that in the coming 1 week, we'll be coming to your area to drill boreholes. We'll be coming to your area to ensure that we provide certain facilities in terms of finances and whatnot. So I think that's where the disconnect is. But we've been trying also to make sure that whenever an opportunity presents itself, we spread it far and wide so that more young people can benefit. Again, I want to point out that a lot of our activities have not been in Nairobi, by the way.
Okay.
On the contrary, a lot of it are grassroots based, because you see, we also have to impact on where our members are. We've done activities in Kitui, we have done activities in Kakamega County, we have been to Busia County, we have done activities in Nakuru, Molo, we have done activities in areas in Mombasa, and slowly we are moving far and wide. And that's why, as part of our strategies, was to also launch the young MCAs, because MCAs are at the grassroots. So our strategic partnership with the Kenya Young Members of County Assembly is to also allow that our presence in counties and in grassroots is evident. So you can be sure that part of the things you see around Kenya Young Members of County Assemblies, we can pride ourselves in taking some little credit, because we champion for them. We ensure that whatever support we get, by extension, we throw it also to their level, so that whatever benefits youth at the national level is also cascaded to the wards and the county level. We've been, for example, focusing on even just building their capacity to better engage in the budget-making processes at county assemblies, because it's a major issue. That's where the money is. People think that money in counties is just in the pockets of governors, but it's about the whole budget cycle. So in recent days, we've trained MCAs from different parts of the country, Muranga, I said Kakamega, and many other parts of the country, where to better engage and be aware of what the physical processes look like. And that has really translated into something impactful. We also share a lot in terms of duplication of what we do at the national level. Like when we did the 30% law, now we have encouraged most of them to ensure that they oversight. The AGPO, to ensure that they oversight so that more young people at the county level benefit from these opportunities. I was in an interview in the morning telling them that pretty soon, CEO, we are planning to do what they call a list of shame. To shame counties, to shame government departments, to shame any other agency that is supposed to comply with the AGPO requirements and they are not. And remember, in the last parliament, there was a commitment from the president in terms of if we release this list of shame, then he's more than willing to crack the whip on anybody who will not have complied with the AGPO requirements. So it's us who've been holding it back, giving them time to adjust. And we feel like time is right to do that which is right. And the right thing to do now is if you're not complying, we shame you. So a lot of good things are coming up, and I am sure in the coming days, even the young people are complaining that KYPA haiko kwa ground, wataanza kuona ama jamaa kumbe walikuwa wanachapa job.
Maybe because you are running alone. If you run with Youth Agenda,
but Youth Agenda has always been our partner. We have never tried. By the way, you know, and from your records, you can bear the witness. We've done what, though it was at some point what wanted to criticize kidogo nika elitist, but it was also a cool thing to do. We used to do joint hangouts. It was the pizza hangout. You know, we camp in some place. Tunaita our youth wanakuja, and then we parade the young MPs. So they hang out very chilled. Hakuna ati pressure mingi venye mmezoea. Mtu namuonanga kwa TV. So over pizza unauliza sakaja any question, you know. It's not a very organized formal setup. And it was a very big success. Before that, when we were doing the AGPO, we also partnered with Youth Agenda in one of the biggest meetings that almost translated into a crisis. Because we invited young people to Nairobi Safari Club to host a business kind of a meeting, just to hear out their concerns in terms of entrepreneurship. Then we had only targeted 200 young people. But maybe the only mistake we made was to put it on the dailies. And Youth Agenda was generous enough to pay. So they paid. By the time the meeting was supposed to start at like 4 p.m. By around 2:30 p.m., the place was already packed inside. And outside there was a mammoth crowd demanding to go in. So I'm getting calls from the hotel. They're asking me, can you come and solve this problem? We did not give you the entire hotel. So I'm like, what is the problem? So getting there, young people they were very eager to engage with the young parliamentarians. And we are grateful for those opportunities for partnership. And we hope that even under your leadership, this can further be strengthened. We are a strong partner.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your commitment. And thank God it was not COVID time. Because
it was not COVID time.
You would have been arrested immediately. Now, let's narrow down to the discussion topic. And I want to encourage our viewers that the hashtag is hashtag the speak out. Our Twitter handles is at the Youth Agenda 254, Facebook at the Youth Agenda, KYPA at Kenya Young Parliamentarian Association, at Antony Buluma, at KYPA, and any other that you could be. There's also Switch TV. You could also tag them along in the discussions. So Katiba at 10. Last week we were celebrating Katiba at 10 and reading through this very wonderful constitution. And now we are also discussing BBI. I know members of parliament, some of them already separated into two fronts. Some are team BBI, some are not team BBI. But I think as KYPA, you could also be having a position, particularly for the young people. So I'll just go to Article 55 of our Constitution, which really gives effort and strength to us young people in the Constitution. And it says that the state shall take measures including affirmative action programs to ensure that A, the youth access relevant education and training. But B, they have opportunities to associate, be represented and participate in political, social, economics and other spheres for life. But C, access employment. I know the youth are listening. And part D, that the youth are protected from harmful cultural practices and exploitation. Exploitation. Recently, we had the COVID-19 haste. I really don't want to imagine that we were exploited. But now, from where you sit, the status of our constitution at 10, what has been achieved, what has not been achieved, and what can be done better. All of us are leaders and we are young and we are representing the youth. But now you are much more in the hot seat because you are now working with those who are representing us and those who are youth who should champion our issues. You've actually mentioned that we have 1,900
and 1,027
MCAs who are young. We have not had even some of them championing for youth policies in their counties. The budgets are passed with the budgets which are not youth sensitive, youth centric. So just in your view, what has worked, what has not worked, what has been done, and what can be done better? Yeah, welcome, Manasi.
Thank you. I think that's a very good question because it tries to, it allows us to reflect back with the hope that we can use that wisdom to try and transform, the current situation we are in and possibly forge a very promising way forward for tomorrow.
Yes.
And why I say that is because before the 2010 Constitution, we were still grappling with the question of centralized resources, where all the opportunities were centralized, at the top.
Yes.
And everything was just at the national level, and people felt like communities were being marginalized because they are disadvantaged because of political reasons and whatnot. But what the 2010 Constitution has profited Kenyans in our numbers is the aspect of devolution. Devolution not just in terms of the negatives, but primarily of the resources, that were largely concentrated at the national level. Now counties are able to sit down, communities are able to prioritize their projects and actually chart their way forward. I think places that I have visited, if you dare mention the collapse of devolution, you would even be stunned because people have seen things that ideally they would never have seen in their lifetime. So the biggest gain first from the 2010 Constitution, even for the young people, is devolution. Then building on that, it has also opened up our democratic space. Unlike before, people are able to speak out their mind to a large extent, save for just recent incidences that are isolated in nature, where a few people blog and are able to say a few things and they are arrested. But over and beyond that, I think we are enjoying a freedom that many of our neighbors are not. You can't compare the freedom in Kenya with the one in Uganda or Tanzania today. And if I may use those two countries as examples. So I think what the 2010 Constitution has literally done is transform our civic space in terms of our freedoms of expression and whatnot. But having said that, every good has its other side. The bad sides are known to all of us. Probably people are saying that the new 2010 Constitution has not only created a bloated structure of government and people are feeling exploited. Others are complaining in terms of a cascaded corruption that has been devolved to counties where a few are growing richer. Before it was just the few privileged at the national level. Now you have many at the county level. Over and beyond that is, yes, what I've mentioned, the overrepresentation, question of overrepresentation, and many other vices that people have cited. Coming down to the specifics of how it has profited the young people, it is this 2010 Constitution that has first of all, recognized youth by law. This Constitution has mentioned and defined and even created a section for young people. And I think for us who are in this space, take that with a lot of pride because it's something that we should guard as young people despite the challenges. Because as you've pointed out, Article 55 speaks to the state taking measures including affirmative action. Affirmative action must be in place to ensure that certain things are done, including for young people. So even the young post that we celebrate it's courtesy of this type of a constitution. We have witnessed a significant increase in youth political representation because, like I said, the Parliament of 2002 cannot be compared to the Parliament of 2014, which was the first Parliament after 2010 election, and the Parliament of 2017, because these two parliaments have witnessed a significant shift in terms of the increase in numbers of young people accessing positions of leadership in Parliament. So I can actually say that Constitution 2010 at 10 has been a good step in the right direction for the young people in Kenya. But I feel and I believe strongly that we can do more and better if we only commit to what the demands of this constitution are calling us to do.
You mean implementation?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean things like ensuring that we implement. You see, like the Article 55 requires an enabling act to breathe life to it. We've been struggling with, there's a bill in Parliament on special interest representation that is still pending. There are, of course, issues like the 2/3 gender rule that we are yet to comply with. There is a constitutional requirement.
Employment bill.
Yeah, the employment bill. So all this pending business, we must really actualize them so that we entirely benefit from the spirit and the intentions of this constitution. Save for all those other things, I think you can cite it as one of the most progressive and promising constitutions in the world. And I think many experts and individuals who have qualifications that befit their comments have pointed out that this is one of the best constitutions we have. As we move towards and warm towards BBI, I think most of us, and as KYPA, we have not exactly taken a specific position because our membership is diverse, and we try to be as bipartisan as possible. So no matter that we feel like it's extremely divisive and we can't quite agree, we allow members to exercise their democratic right and think independently because they have divergent perspectives to the BBI story, and all of them, the arguments are very weighty. So the only thing that we are left to do is leave it for the Kenyans to determine which argument will win. And that will be determined ultimately by the processes that will follow.
As KYPA, I think, thank you very much. As KYPA, I think you have a role in trying to put sense in the minds of these leaders. Because there should be a possibility for them to move their thinking from party positions to the real issues on the ground. Because ideally, just yesterday, we were reading that 61.9 people lost jobs during COVID time. It is sad. And even before COVID, young people have been suffering. I remember when Youth Agenda put its first statement about COVID and youth engagement, we raised those issues. We actually said that we will reach a position where landlords will be removing their iron sheets for their tenants.
No, we're already there.
So,
we've not been seeing it on news.
So we've been there, but we raised it earlier on, and now we can see that that is happening. There are other silent things. Very soon there will be insecurity. Even some of us who are putting on these suits, it will be insecure for us to walk on the road. So I think as KYPA, there should be, we are challenging you as Youth Agenda to try and negotiate with, or even put the live information to the members of Parliament, members of County Assembly, for them really to look into trying to save this country from a bigger bomb. They used to say that youth is a time bomb. I think now it's more than a bomb. What's that other thing that is more scaring than a bomb? I think we've reached there. So maybe going forward, thank you for your insights. I would want now to take you now to the legislation aspect. Maybe you could help us to communicate to the MCAs on what are the kind of bills, or what are the kind of laws that they should be considering, so that now we devolve representation of youth at counties. Yeah. What are some of these legislations, policies or strategies that needs to be discussed at the assemblies to help the young people? Yes. What are some of them?
I think the main focus that I would encourage most of the young people to focus on, beyond, you know, the employment legislations and whatnot, I think our first point of interest must be the budget. You know, unless we are able to influence how the budget looks, we might put so many, you know, we create so many bodies and institutions and all these things, but we never reap the true benefits of devolution without the budget. I was privileged to travel in a few counties and interact even with governors, and I realized that they have so many programs for young people. And the debate that we should be having is, are these programs translating into money in the pockets of young people?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, Kevin, it's not so much about the drama that we take to counties and how many young people we mobilize and interact with them.
Mm-hmm.
These young people, what they want is to see that their households are bearing fruit.
That's true.
Nile kijana amekaa aache kukaa kwa mawe, ama akikaa kwa hiyo mawe anakaa kwa mawe because kuna kitu ana make from simu yake. Unaona? But that's a situation yenye, especially even at the county level, the struggle is most young people wamekaa, there is no hope for tomorrow, they feel very disenfranchised, they feel disengaged because they don't even know how much money comes to their counties. So part of the things we want to do is really build the capacity of MCS to ensure that they pay close attention to how budgets are made, so that they give significant allocations to young people. That is one aspect. Secondly, is maybe probably think along the lines of creating an enabling environment for young people to better engage in county and even national activities. Because I think the other challenge that keeps popping up is the challenge of disengagement. Yes. Most young people, you notice even the other time when COVID started, even the health CS had to actually in his remarks say that please the youth, can you get involved?
Yes.
You know, but it's not the problem. The problem is not the youth. It's actually government. So we want to actually think along ways and creatively on how best to ensure that the environment is conducive for government to interact with young people, so that the policy they make has reflects the intentions of the voters and particularly the young people. And how we are doing that recently during the International Youth Week, we launched what we call the Meaningful Youth Engagement Toolkit. That will, when mainstreamed within Parliament, it will define how young people interact with Parliament. Because our business is just ensuring that the agenda of youth is mainstreamed within Parliament. So the MY framework has some very radical and progressive propositions. One, inasema vijana wata create some kind of a youth assembly or youth mock parliament that will be meeting in Parliament, inawapatia an opportunity to get an orientation of how Parliament functions. You get to experience to be an MP for a day or two. You get to understand how parliamentary committees function, because you know Parliament operates through committees more. So you understand health committee functions like this. Even when you're making submissions of a petition or some recommendations, you know how to go about it. So that's one avenue. The second one is slightly outside Parliament, where we will be able to create a framework for engagement, for regular consultations between the MPs and the youth. And the things that we're doing at the national level will be cascaded to counties, so that as many young people as possible feel engaged and are enticed to, you know, keep interacting with the policymakers. Because we hope that, because as per the new constitution, Parliament has a very broadened role. You know, beyond oversight of the executive, we want to play a more proactive role in terms of, you know, the budget making role was shifted to Parliament. Today, the executive comes to beg for money from Parliament. So we'd like young people to be entangled into these conversations, so that wakisema wanaongea story ya chapa ya budget, my youth wako pale katikati, because there's a framework for them to submit their views. And we are hoping that the same culture can be transferred to counties, and particularly through the county assembly, because even county assemblies, they have a significant budget making role.
Yes, they have.
County governors have to beg for money. That's why Kirinyaga at some point was stranded. You remember there was a standoff between county assembly and Waiguru, and they were saying hatukupei pesa by the way, na tumeslash kwanza. So we imagine we have a population of young legislators making such demands. Wanasema ni ati by the way, hii budget tumetuletea kama si 50% inaenda kwa youth, we are not giving you money.
Let's now come to policy. You know, there is the legislation and then formation of policies and then the implementation. Recently again, was in the media that the government, national government, is not working properly, especially during COVID, because the majority of the employees ni wazee. So hawezi kudeal na hizi webinars, virtual meetings and nini. And also in the same spirit, there was another report that also from my county, unfortunately, that 80% of the staff have no formal education. Wow. What really happens? What really happens to members of parliament, members of county assembly, when people are subjected to them for interviews at the assembly for positions who are not qualified? Yet at the end of the day, we still see that these people are given opportunities. We are lifting this because you would not expect proper service from somebody who already has a questionable background or unqualified persons. But we can see even the national government, we may not want to mention names, but we had some appointments which even to us young people who are a bit disappointed. What really happens between the appointing bodies and parliament?
Thank you. I think it stems from two directions. Direction one is the capacity of the MCS. Direction two is how the system is designed. And I think we've tried to fit in both to ensure that we bridge on that gap. On the capacity issue, right now the MCS all over the country are going through what you call a Leading Young program that has a mentorship aspect, coaching aspect, where we have employed the services of professional coaches who are nurturing their leadership to ensure that they are responsive to the needs of the people and they can actually outmaneuver the system even in times of crisis. So it's a program that is ongoing, and probably you'll be seeing a lot of shift in the behavior of MCAs and their attitude towards leadership. We're hoping that in terms of capacity, we can deal with it from that angle. The second angle is, like I said, the system. It's a systemic issue. In the last parliament, when we realized that the system used to recruit, system used to identify individuals for public office was very inefficient, that's when we created the National Employment Authority to mirror what in the UK they call the employment bureaus. So what this employment authority is supposed to do? It's supposed to be the agency that links you as a young person sourcing for employment opportunity to government. And it's still the same agency that is supposed to be advising government on how government appointments and employment should be happening. Unfortunately, there are challenges within the authority that have denied us this opportunity to begin to see the fruits of what that particular act envisioned. Because you see, what used to happen was that even in terms of appointment, nepotism was one of the leading factors. So there is no objective process in identifying who comes to serve. That's why you overlook important qualifications such as your academic qualifications, you overlook important qualifications such as your experience and expertise, and you go for anything that the governor throws your direction. You get? So that's why we are saying, even the whole idea of employment in government must be mainstreamed in a way that you can actually track how the process happens. So we hope that, and the National Employment Authority is setting this in different counties because it's supposed to be a county-based kind of a program. This base will be working with universities because if you look at the composition of the board that comprises the National Employment Authority board, it has some representation from the Commission on University Education, it has representation from finance, treasury, and so forth and so on. So the idea is there is harmony in terms of the thinking within the job market. So the Employment Authority begins by collecting your CV. And it has a database of all the information of the over 800,000 people who are introduced to the labor market every year. This information is what governments at the national and county should be using when they are making decisions to do with recruitment. So that if, for example, in future, the MCAs have to ask questions. Part of the questions you expect that they'll be asking is, where is this name coming from? Has this person ever filed an expression of interest with the Employment Authority? So that on the strength of that, the vetting process begins from, were you first of all interested? Not a scenario where Antony Buluma has become governor. And because Kelvin is my good friend, I do give you a call. Nakwambia Kelvin, wewe ndio unaweza cover zile mauchafu zangu zote. So wewe kuja, usijali na assembly na deal nayo. Oh, you have no interest, you have no clue on what is going on, then you come and run. That's why we have those incidences where somebody has no skills whatsoever to do with technology. You look at the people managing some of the ICTs, the technologies in government. You'll be shocked. Yet we are leaving out young people who can hack those systems, bring down a government, loitering in the streets. And these young people are very talented. Because I can tell you, I think this country boasts of some of the most innovative, progressive, I can use very many kind words to describe the Kenyan youth. But their stories are shattered by, the kind of nepotism that we practice, the systemic nature of our very biased system of selecting people into office, and so forth and so on. So pretty much, it's a system issue and a capacity issue. That's the response.
I see you are you should be a management consultant. You really answered it well. The other thing, the last question that I will be asking you, and then we take questions from participants and viewers. Yeah, now we are at Constitution at 10 again, and we are the majority population in the country. What is so difficult in having a standalone ministry for the youth?
I think you can say that a million times. I think it's about time that we have, and I think many of us have been calling for that. Yeah. And we hope that our president can heed to this call, because that would radically transform everything in terms of how issues of young people are managed. Because it means even in terms of the allocation, it gives us as Parliament an opportunity to give a significant allocation towards youth programs. Because right now, youth issues are coupled into many others, creating a standalone ministry for young people that can, be preoccupied with just thinking on how do we solve the problem of youth. Remember, Kevin, youth comprise over 80% of the country's population, right? They comprise the majority, they comprise the most promising in terms of the workforce.
Yes.
They comprise many other things, including the drivers of our innovation,
Yes.
They're the ones who are taking the country to the next level.
Yes.
And I think it's about time, considering all these realities, that as a country we warm up to the idea of a standalone ministry for youth.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to go into my social media. There was a question that came yesterday that we have Kazi Komitani now. We have had NYS. We have had many others that I don't want to mention the names. Why is it that it is the youth resources that must always attract corruption?
I don't know. Maybe it's because we are vulnerable. We are not as empowered. So it's easy to step on us and get away.
Now, what's the role probably of KYPA and the young legislators in trying to change this? Because it's repeating itself. And even the latest one for the Kazi Mtaani, where young people were promised to be paid about 400, and then you get allegations that they are being paid 90 shillings. It's really painful. And there is no explanation of what has happened in between. What can KYPA or young members of Parliament do to fight this?
Our role is limited to our oversight role as Parliament, because Parliament doesn't have the implementing capacity. We have state agencies that are tasked with that role of ensuring that they enforce punitive measures against culprits of corruptions and whatnot. But in terms of the specifics of what we are doing is before Parliament, there are two very key legislative proposals that we are doing.
Yes.
We are doing one called the Whistleblower Protection Bill that will see us employ the country, adopting a whistle protection mechanism such that if you're a whistleblower, you're not arrested or you're not exposed in a manner that endangers your life. You remember the haste that happened in Mara University, and the persons who adversely mentioned were walking scot-free, and the whistleblowers, exposed themselves, and we thank them for being so brave, because that was one of the institutions belonging to young people. So after that, we said that since we want to encourage more young people to be anti-corrupt, we want to have them coming out in their numbers as whistleblowers. So that's why we're doing this legislation. Over and beyond that, Mheshimiwa Ndindi Nyoro has been pushing a bill on enhancing the punitive measures against corrupt individuals. It has been facing challenges, but it's one of the steps that we are using as part of also our awareness, because we're saying even if you don't enact this piece of legislation, the statement is out there that we are anti-corrupt and we will forever be following you up. So we are trying to also think innovatively of other ways on how we can best legislate and provide an enabling environment for Kenyans to play a more proactive role in the fight against corruption, because I think the country had envisioned that with the creation of key institutions such as EACC, the DCIs, the DPPs, would be able to mitigate on the vice. But it appears like even with the existence of these institutions, the situation keeps worsening. So probably with constant interaction with new key legislations that redefine the landscape, we hope that that can help serve towards mitigating on the effects.
Thank you. There are questions coming. There's a question from a guy called Nyongesa from Facebook, is asking the function for the youth function in the recent executive order that came from the president moved from ICT, moved from gender to ICT and youth affairs. But the recent executive order placed the youth policy under the under the gender. Yeah. It is in the Ministry of Youth and ICT. So now the role of the youth policy was moved to the Ministry of Public Service and Gender. What are the young members of National Assembly doing to ensure the implementation of the policy is done right and under the right department or ministry?
I'm not so sure that it was moved to the Ministry of Gender. I thought it's still under the Ministry of ICT, because just the other day they launched the Kenya National Youth Policy.
I know he's relating to the executive order and also the statement which us as Youth Agenda did. We actually highlighted that the function of the implementation of the policy was still lying under
the Ministry of Gender.
Ministry of Gender.
I am not. I think probably it's an issue to do with executive functioning. And you know, Parliament has a very limited role in terms of dictating the day-to-day running of the executive. It's a prerogative of the president and his team. So probably if that's one of the issues, I would interest my members, and I think I can raise it with them to hear whether it's one of the things that they would want to respond, so that if at all that's the case, we can then call out on government to try and, you know, realign that type of situation.
I think something that you need to take up, because I know the youth are following, and they actually followed when we did put our public statement to the president. The second question comes from a gentleman called Nixon. Is asking about, like we rightly mentioned, that the government or the constitution recognizes that youth should access employment, and we have this big burden called HELP. We have ethics and anti-corruption.
Many documents.
We have the other. What is the other one?
Good conduct.
Good conduct, and all these documents. Why is it that a young person who has not yet even received employment, being asked to pay money, is like you are buying to be employed? And where does this money go to? Imagine in a day, if 1,000 people are on e-citizen portal, each one of them paying 3,000. That's 3 million. Where does this money go to? So, as young members of parliament, as MCAs, what can be your role? What can you do to help young people access jobs easily and make the process? It can even be reverted. Allow me to get the job first, then me pay. Rather than what can you do?
I would like to tell my brother tuko sawa hapo.
Yes.
We are seized of that matter.
Yes.
There is a bill before Parliament.
Yes.
Once it becomes law, we scrap all those nonsense.
Okay.
So you'll be working, seeking your employment without many requirements. Do lipa.
Yeah.
We've told the executive we are not taking it kindly.
Yeah.
Those things you're scrapping. And luckily, I think the other day, is it Yahel Billy Sotiwa? the
yeah,
CBK governor intervened, and
yes,
even as the law,
yes.
there's a bill before Parliament today on the same matter by Honorable Gideon Keter, who's the MP representing youth in Parliament, to scrap all those requirements, and hopefully it will see the light of day in the coming days.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
Because we want to shut it completely, so that anybody else who comes,
yes,
as imaginative as you may want to be,
yes,
it will be in law that you cannot create those avenues.
okay, great. Lastly, about another question as we wait for others about the Biashara Fund. What is the status of Biashara Fund? What is the position of young members of Parliament, particularly on this fund, and the percentages that were allocated? I remember reading into it, they were saying they want to give young people about 30% and still merge the young people with other entrepreneurs. So what could be your position in that?
To be honest, we don't have like a common position on the Biashara Fund, because our membership have also had divergent views on the same. But it's a matter that I think at some point was brought before Parliament, and we just allowed members to, independently discuss it. But what I know that would be the KYPA's position is, if this turns out to disadvantage the youth in terms of maybe it will lead to a decline in the allocations that were going to young people,
yes,
I'm certain that the members of KYPA will oppose it. But if at all it is intended to expound and actually increase on what the youth are getting, then it's something that you can be certain that the young MPs will support.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Another question here is like a suggestion. How is KYPA ensuring the youth access sufficient knowledge via county websites? So probably this is somebody asking you, could you think of having KYPA information in county websites?
Oh, yeah. It's an interesting suggestion.
Yeah.
I think we can look at ways on how best we can encourage the COG.
Okay.
It's a good idea. And I think we'll take it up to see whether avenues on how we can cooperate with the Council of Governors.
And on Kazi Mtaani, somebody is saying Kazi Mtaani youth have skills, but they are only used to clear block trenches. Can the government come up with programs to engage the youth in skill level? Maybe now not the government. Could KYPA engage government in coming up with programs that are good for the youth, not just digging trenches? I mean, we had Kazi Mtaani. We also had what was that? The other one was the one
Kazi kwa
Vijana.
Yeah.
And the way the job around is always socialized. It's taken to that direction.
In the last Parliament, Kelvin, we had envisioned a different scenario, considering that KKV did not materialize to be as successful as the country had envisioned. So we had proposed a bill called the Strategic Industries Bill, that was supposed to set aside or create a fund towards creating industries that can absorb the talent and the skills of young people. It didn't quite materialize because the budget committee then had a contrary view in terms of the capacity of the country to finance that.
Yes.
But it's something that we are willing to revisit, because our space is limited to enacting legislation.
Yes.
So our intention was to create this legislation so that young people we can be able to absorb the innovation amongst young people.
Yes.
Every financial year, our proposal was like around 2% of the country's budget goes towards creating an industry to respond to the emerging innovation amongst the youth. So that the government meets with the youth in the middle.
Yes.
So if you have, say, 2 billion available in setting up an industry. So there's a committee that sits and looks at where are many young people focusing their attention. Is it on the digital space? Yes. If it's on the digital space, this investment is available towards setting a digital industry.
Yeah.
The next one could be young people maybe doing shoes, from the Jua Kali level coming up.
Yes.
When they set out some funds, maybe the next financial year sets funds to respond to skills in that sector, and so forth and so on. And then, in addition to the same measures, we proposed a bill that will then see what we call the certification of skills, the informal skills by young people. You could be a mechanic who's more experienced and better at mechanical work than someone who's an engineer from the university.
Umefika class 6
Yes. Na ukaingia kwa jua kali na umechapa hiyo job
for 6 years.
Yes. Wewe ukipewa gari you can dismantle an engine, put it back without any struggle. So you give such a person certification because
hata ujui hizo vitu za engines zinaitwaje kwa English.
Yeah, that type of a thing. So these are issues that we are willing to revisit, but we'd also want to know whether the youths who are following this conversation are interested. So make sure mume comment mingi mpaka Youth Agenda iniambie you have no option. We partner with you. Let's do the strategic industries bill, and it's something I can invite Youth Agenda to think about. And we do the certification. We have the platform. Once we are ready, we agree with you guys. Get young people to sit and be innovative around it. Do a proper legislation. Get other young people to volunteer on the budget aspect. Then I commit to give at least 2 members who will sponsor the 2 legislations.
Please do, because we are running the Job ni Job program.
Yeah.
And recently we beginning to receive applications from people who have not necessarily even reached Form 4. And they fear to be published because they think to be cool you need to have a degree.
Yeah.
So I think there's a discussion that we need to take and to also change the mindset of our youth as regards to employment.
Very true.
Now, Bwana Samba, we are almost coming to a close. And since we have asked you very tough questions, some questions that would have been answered by the president himself, we wish to give you a chance now as a leader and as a young person interested in politics and governance issues. What is your advice? What can you tell the youth who are listening to you? How else can they participate properly? I agree with you. I've personally even gone to train MCAs in a number of these counties. You mentioned even budget cycle. It's like, so what are you talking about?
Yeah.
so I think as a leader now, you being in your capacity, could give you like 5 to 10 minutes to just talk to the youth in your spirit and inspire them. And then we can wind up the show.
Okay, thank you. I think there is one favorite story that I use when I'm sharing about or giving personal advice to people my age and who look like us. And it's a very brief story about an incident in South Africa of a certain bishop who had big ambitions and dreams that, you could not compare them to anything. Because this bishop wanted to change the whole world. And that is so like a young person. And at that point he was around age 21. So he kept saying and telling his friends, I am going to be the biggest thing this world has ever seen. Because I'm determined to change the world. And I'm going to transform everything, revolutionize the systems and all that. So he kept singing this song until he was age 54 years. And he realized that he was growing weak and could not necessarily change the whole universe because you require a lot of energy and time here on earth. So he said, let me shift goalposts from the world to Africa. So he kept preaching the same gospel and hoping that change will come because he's talking about it and he's very proactive in talking about it. And to paraphrase the whole story, when he was age 94 years, a very weak old man almost dying. He invited his children, of course by that time they're very old, but most importantly his grandchildren. And this is the advice he passed. I think we could be the age of his grandchildren. He told them, as your grandfather was very ambitious, like many of you. I wanted to change the whole world, but I missed out certain important things in life. And one such thing is that true change does not start from the world. It starts with the individual, then slowly grows to how is your family perceiving change. Then you spread it to the community around you. By the time you are getting to Kenya, the world will recognize that there's a young person who's different. And I think Kenya needs such type of an attitude, thinking amongst young people. And that's exactly what I would encourage many of these young people to do. That let's not imagine that we will create the kind of change we want by just talking about it and aiming for the world. Let's start as an individual and ask yourself, what am I doing at my level to mitigate on vices of corruption? And I can tell you, Kelvin, that's my story. That's how I ended up being a CEO. Because I started by challenging myself. And the many of you who know me know my story stems from the fact that I challenged myself constantly. I would ask myself, why am I not on the newspaper telling a different story? You know, in high school, many people don't know, but you know, I've served as a president for Children's Cabinet. There was a time there was a transport crisis when Michuki introduced these new measures for seatbelts. So me and my friends, because I was a day scholar at Jamhuri High School, we were affected by this new policy. Because now at some point I remember I walked from home just to get to school, and I was living in Komarok. That's a whole distance, over 20 kilometers. I walked criticizing and hating the government, then I said, wait a minute, it's a right move. So what alternatives are there? I remembered there is a train station in Nairobi that transports people all the way to Kayole and others. But many young kids do not have the strength to compete with the elders. So I reached out to the colleagues in the Children's Cabinet, and we organized a courtesy visit to Michuki in high school. I'm not talking about now. And we persuaded him, and I think that thing is on record on the newspaper. Because I remember when we started, we told him, Honorable Waziri, with all due respect to what you're doing for our country, and we admire it, but please remember there are children involved. And the Children's Act protects us. As individuals, we are coming to reach out to you. Consider children. And he acted, and he said, in good faith, if you had asked the same to Kibaki, who is my boss, he would grant you. So I'm giving instructions starting tonight. Kenya Railways, spare 2 coaches for high school students. I became a celebrity for that. So we can do it, Mavijana, we can do it. We just need to believe in ourselves and take that individual step, and all will be well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ban Antony. I think the young people have benefited much from you.
Thank you.
Also, even as a Youth Agenda, we are looking at opportunities to work with KYPA, particularly to strengthen the engagement of youth. You know, part of the gap that we have as a nation is the tracking of the policy. When I mean tracking, it would then push the implementation by the duty bearers. So I think thank you so much. We welcome you back to the Youth Agenda. We are running the Wajibika program with the UNDP.
I see.
And we are soon going to start asking MCAs of Nairobi why they have not audited the COVID funds that were allocated to them. And many people don't know that counties were allocated COVID response funds. So it's a good opportunity. We are running this program in Nairobi. We'll be reaching out to your office also for information in some cases, particularly the issues around youth, and also to engage youth-serving organization leaders in the discussions of these funds. Also, just to inform you that the Top 35 Under 35 program has established what we call the YALE, the Youth Agenda Leadership Academy, where the MCAs are welcome to come for training. You know, we'll be discussing with you how to also give a package for them, and you can negotiate for counties to pay for them to come for sessions, or even look for partners to support them. We would wish to have right-minded MCAs, because we are told even the issues of gender, we are talking about two-thirds gender rule. Mtoto amekuwa from utotoni akijua I'm superior to my sister. How do you start converting that person 30 years after? So we need to start these discussions early, even the issues of youth, engaging them into leadership, putting them into the right mindset. So that's why we've set up that center, which is running virtually right now. So on behalf of the Youth Agenda team, the Speak Out program, all our partners and our friends and the viewers, I wish to thank you so much and invite you to our next show, which will be coming next week on Tuesday, and it will be put public for your participation. Thank you so much, and God bless you.